Hey everybody, welcome to House and Creatives. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Aquarian season and the Aquarian new moon. Um, we'll step in on January 19th to February 18th is our Aquarian season. Um, do you have any Aquarian placements? I don't remember.
Let's pick. Do you?
I just Aquarius is on my MC in the ninth house. And my Jupiter sits there.
I don't. I think most of mine are Gemini.
How about you guys? Anybody have any Aquarian placements that you know of? Not just sun, moon, or rising?
Zero.
Dang.
Yeah, and they're my favorite. And the Aquarius placements
I
are.
feel like on your IC though, like you probably feel like they're your family. Honestly.
I do like them.
How funny. I was just thinking ours is opposite.
Yeah,
Yours is on the IC and mine is on the MC.
yeah.
Interesting. Interesting fact we just learned today. So let's talk about Aquarian energy. Honest, if I could be honest, like I think Aquarian um has felt like one of the more difficult ones to understand and drop into. I think for two reasons. Um, One, if we talk about rulership, if we talk about that, that feels kind of masculine. Rulership was originally ruled by Saturn, and nowadays is ruled by Uranus. And so that alone feels a little contradictory, where, Saturn is, um, about limitations and boundaries and what we can like how we can break free of the conditions of reality, or how we conform to the conditions of reality, or how we recreate our reality, or how we are recreating our reality. And Uranus, on the other hand, is like breaking free of like cultural conditioning. Like it doesn't like does not want detests limitations, and is like kind of about the sudden changes and the electric forces of how uh, we are required to sometimes suddenly shift. And so both of those feel a little contradictory in itself. And that's how Aquarius actually kind of feels to me is like a little contradictory, is like the water bear with all of this maybe wisdom and stuff that goes into it, but also a little bit can be cold, we can intertwine the circulatory system in there. And if you have Aquarian or a lot of planets in Aquarian energy, or even the 11th house, my guess is that you kind of are cold often, or you have circulatory issues, maybe fingers and toes being more on the cold side, or kind of a nervous energy. You think about the pulses. We just talked about Uranus and that electric charge. It's like pulses of energy, like pulses of excitement, pulses of wisdom or knowledge or excitement, which really takes a toll on our nervous system. Did you want to interject anything body talk wise, like nervous system and those kind of things before I carry on?
Uh, what makes you think of nervous system is like detaching from it, which like
Like that.
we sometimes when we don't want to deal with don't want to deal, or we want to disassociate, detach, we will find outside sources, alcohol and or like weed. And so when you start to detach or continuously use that, your nervous system becomes overtaxed, or like your adrenals um, will be in fight or flight mode. Um, I had another thing to add in there. I can't. Oh, my brain, it's gone.
I will just pick up on that because I love that kind of detach. I think that there there is kind of an emotional detachment that goes with Aquarian energy. This I know doesn't necessarily know how to feel. Um, and I think evolutionarily, like if we think about it, it's gone through all the feelings though, and it just wants to get to the purpose of creation and start using uh, some of that energy to like some of that energy to create this new way of looking at life. um, these new ideas, and not being emotionally attached to them. That's why they can go dump into this like rebellious energy and dump into innovative ideas and things that don't often exist yet. They're the master creators in some of this, but it's because they don't allow that emotional attachment to come so we can start to evolve the ideas into something um, that go against what people think or believe often, so there has to be a level of detachment there. But that it's also like kind of like that balance I was talking about with Uranus and Saturn is like trying to find this line of like where we can feel love, where we can feel those things rather than trying to detach and and just stimulating the nervous system even more, as we kind of allow, which for air I feel like is kind of hard, but allow that to kind of ground down a little bit. We can then begin to kind of nurture that and allow the water to move because Aquarius is also known as the water bearer, even though it's an earth sign, and that is like if you think of somebody over the earth pouring the waters of wisdom, water holds a lot of information. We talk a lot about structured water in our business and um, and pouring all that wisdom and being able to share that is like bringing life, right? So there's like a natural influence of water there, kind of like with Capricorn, and then we step into Pisces, like water's all kind of a part of the cycle of those things. But when we get too caught up in maybe the thoughts that are coming in or the messages or the things that are coming in, we forget kind of what's going on here. And you'll see that a lot. I feel like a few of the Aquarians that I know can have had an attachment to work, like workaholics, so to say, but that like kind of coming down and coming in and nurturing that and the wisdom that kind of comes with that knowledge, really can, I think, help embody the thinking outside of the box and progressively, as we nurture and feel and develop like kind of what's going on around us and what we want to create, then I think like the light bulb moments really go off where we can really embody that collective thought process. I also was thinking about the depth in thinking about like the evolution of Aquarius and going through all the feelings of like, I wonder if also like if the detachment is there is because we don't actually know what love feels like down here.
Or they, if you talk about like evolutionary astrology, they've already gone through most of the signs, and maybe what we all think love is on Earth means nothing at all. And
Yeah, I think that's what
oh, okay,
yeah, that's actually exactly what I'm trying to say is like, I'm wondering, but that I think that's like kind of the key, like that Aquarian energy is where there is an understanding of what could be. And like these are the people that are going to be unlocking the keys to the future and have been, period. Not saying that it's just happening now. But that, they hold the keys to maybe this kind of golden age that we're projecting for the future. And how interesting that is. So the new moon happens on January 29th, and it's, I think, a good time to reflect on maybe any seeds that you planted for the new moon in Capricorn. Um, this is space to um, either nurture the seed that you planted, water it, um, generate some new ideas, or reform it, let it get a little weird, you know, let's get, let's think outside of the box.
Yeah.
Right? Or allow yourself to sit with it and see what kind of comes in, and maybe toy with the idea of those ideas that come in that feel like that's crazy, or I couldn't do that, but that doesn't even exist, or whatever. Like, I encourage you to play with that a little bit. That's the thing about air, is like we can really kind of add a lot of diversity and um, you know be mutable in ways like that, so that feels exciting, that you can start to kind of look at those things in a different light, or see what wasn't working and how to reform it to continue to nurture these seeds that you're planting in your own development and your own growth, in what you want to see in your life. Um, This is directly followed, I think, the next day by Uranus going direct again in Taurus. We talked about Uranus and rulership and stuff. And Uranus and Taurus, I think we have all been able to see the changes in in how we view money in this world, and how we handle money, how we make money. There's a lot of things about money. I think there's a lot of connections of food also, and whether that's the plethora of food or the fluctuations of scarcity of certain foods as well. But I think we're having some shifts in, like, I think that even watching like the permaculture and people starting up their own farms, and some of these things that are being developed is really quite interesting. I also think what it makes me think about also that Saturn aspect too, and Aquarius. And I couldn't help but think of this happening in Aquarius season, this transition to go direct, because we're at like the very end of Taurus. So we've really had this long time with Uranus and Taurus, and this shifting of these ideas and these sudden changes. Um, but also, like, how have we been conditioned to think how we should make money?
Grind it out. Suffer. It's not worth it if you don't suffer. One job, one life.
Several jobs to pay the bills, to keep up with the Joneses, right?
Yeah, I mean, the list could go on. The list could go on.
Right. And this like comparative, and like Taurus is about materialism also, and lack of, or the detachment from, or the attainment of. And so I think we've all like kind of gone through these cycles, right? And I think like the higher view is recognizing the value in what we have. And I think that we're starting to recognize that what we found value in isn't valuable. Like it's like we've been tricked, like, and thinking like, oh my gosh, this is what I need to be doing. And actually, we recognize also toward this the suffering that we have ensued in following and believing this. and how we can reform that, and how we're seeing a lot of young people come in and making lots of money on social media, on the internet, on these, not having to spend their whole life working for someone else and making shit, like, really, it's like no way to live. Like, that's not living. But we're seeing that maybe this could be reformed, that there's maybe a different option. There are different options. There is a different way to live and enjoy and stop and smell the roses and actually maybe really love what's happening in life.
Whoa. Whoa.
Just saying. I think it could be. I think it could be a thing.
Scary though.
It is.
For some.
Yeah, I think for all of us, it challenges belief systems,
Yep.
right?
Belief systems that can be generational, belief systems that can be
Definitely generational.
cultural, belief systems that not only may not be inherited, but learned or acquired from the current time frame, or even get a little out there because it's Aquarius, another timeline.
Right?
Can all be affecting.
Yes, I love that. Um, and Uranus is about breaking free of those. So that's where like modalities of like what Jackie does could be really powerful. Jackie is a body talk practitioner. For those of you that you don't know what that is, Google it. Just kidding. Come to our page. She's
Ask a question.
got to. But yeah, I think that I think it's interesting that there's this new moon, just kind of like the setups of even this year, and that Uranus will be transiting into Gemini this year. And so that we've got some big shifts coming this year. And what does that mean? Like, what have we learned with this energy here? And what have you decided about your own life of like how you want to live and how you want to make money? You know, these are discussions that Jackie and I have in Hallison, and how we want to, live our lives and having more freedom, while still being able to pay our bills, and while still being able to help people and to engage in modalities that we believe in, and that we value, right?
Mhm.
And being able to offer that value to others as well, and so those are things to think about in, what have you been reevaluating? This has been going on for several years, but what feels really specific even the last 2 years, because we've been reforming on a deep scale right now. There's been a lot of planetary influence that's really making us look at a collective view of like what we actually value and how we've been living. And so this new moon, I encourage you to really maybe take a time to like do some daydreaming of like, what would you like your life to look like? How much money would you like to make, and how would you like to make it? That would be cool, right? To like explore. It could be really fun. And that's the thing about sharing or playing into any of this magnetism and getting to co-create your life, is like getting just excited. That feels like Uranus too, like this electrical charge and pulse, right? Of like, let's charge it up,
Because it's possible.
Exactly.
It's possible.
That's what we're being reminded of. So use this energy, play into it, play with it. Like, if you've never dropped into listening to some of these subtle energies, maybe you're going to start listening to some of these and start taking some time to understand how it actually is impacting your life. These aren't like, yes, some things can be very impactful and life-changing in moments, but a lot of this energy can be very subtle for most of us. And tuning into those subtle energies can be so impactful. And whether that's planetary, it's energetics, we could talk about biofields, we could talk about structured water, we could talk about some of these subtle things, body talk changes, shifts, can all be very subtle. Um, and although impactful, sometimes we miss it. Sometimes we like, you know? And so tuning into these things of like, I encourage you to get curious and play a little bit.
Because if it's not working, maybe it's time to try something different, right?
I mean, I think that's been a little bit of a theme that we've been talking about, period, this whole year, the beginning of this year. And how can we lean into feel to create these innovative ideas? How do we nourish ourselves and take in the waters and the wisdoms of life and then use them for creative pursuits also. I think that we should talk a little bit about also just Aquarian, the connections in Aquarian energy within the body and the tarot. And we talked a little bit about the nervous system, but maybe we'll shift gears here. Do you want to talk a little bit about the tarot cards?
Yeah. So the Star Child Tarot is I just pulled out the ones that are congruent with Aquarius. So you have the star. The star, hope, strength, power. We're right in the middle of winter. While the days are getting longer, it's still dark for most of us. And cold. And if you think of like the three wise men, I mean, they were following a star. Like they followed something that they believed in, that was completely out of the box, that not a lot of people at the time also believed in what they were doing. So that's giving Aquarius energy.
Yeah.
It's giving Aquarius.
I agree with that.
With the other ones, we have swords. Swords is air. Oops. Oh, I grabbed a wands in there. So 5, 6, and 7. But I don't know how to even look at my own tarot cards, apparently. Anyways, 5, 6, and 7. 5 is, for me, really just reminds me of change. But the word we talked about a little bit before we got on here was expansion. And then 6 is walking away, kind of also a theme we talked about in one of the last 3 videos with the cancer videos. Was no one to hold them, no one to fold them. It's kind of following the same theme of like walking away. And that could be thoughts, people. If you're thinking differently, not everyone is going to agree with that, because either that's outside their purview or they're not ready to do it either. And then 7, deception, but more so in the lies you tell yourself. If you are constantly telling yourself you're not good enough, then you believe you're not good enough. So reframing what you say to yourself. And along the lines of like structured water, Dr. Emoto, when he speaks into the water and then frees it, like anger freezes differently than joy. And yeah, those are the 4 cards for tarot. That
Yeah, I feel like seven, this kind of just kind of dropped in because I always see the numbers as I relate them to like the houses in astrology, right? Because I've just studied that so much. So that's naturally what I kind of think of when I see those kind of numbers. And with that seven and like the deception and the lies that you tell yourself, I just was thinking too is like that relationship with yourself, right? And the Aquarian of like has all this wisdom, maybe has the courage to be different in these things, but doesn't know how to feel. And so there's kind of like a discord there, right? Of like a contradictory. And so getting straight about the truth, because that is also very Aquarian, is the truth seeker. So finding and getting to the depths of the truth and having that relationship, to avoid the lies that you tell yourself or believe the lies that people tell you. I think that would be one too, especially if you're going against the grain, right? That could look like you'll never do that. Like, how would you do that? Or, whatever kind of judgment anybody'd like to put on you is like releasing that. So, um, I'd love to hear what anybody else's take is on those tarot cards as well. Um, I'd also like to talk about the correlation in the body with Aquarian. It is formerly known with the ankles. Um, and I'll tell you, I fractured my right ankle in my 20s, and this ankle gives me trouble all the way up to, so once we get to the hip, we go to the opposite side of the head. It gives me trouble up into the left side of my neck. And so if you don't think that your ankles hold importance or value, uh, let me remind you in my own experience that it shifts a balance, which I think comes with the idea of like the lies that we tell ourselves, uh, the instability of walking a road that nobody's willing to walk with you or doesn't understand. I should put it more that way, So I think that that's interesting, and also like the idea of trying to ground down some of that energy, right? We talked about it being correlated with the nervous system, also the circulatory system, or sometimes with the veins, and the movement of blood, and how that all comes together in a sense that we need to stabilize those things, without grounding some of that stuff down. We're just pulsing, you know, just sucking the vital force out of us, And with already being kind of a colder sign, I think having any kind of warmth is great. Um, Grounding, breath work. I mean, any kind of air sign is going to benefit greatly from any kind of breath work. And whether that is simple breathing techniques or advanced breathing techniques could be life-changing in how your body responds and takes in the oxygenation of the blood, because that's very much ruled and supported by Aquarian energy. Jack, did you want to talk about the ankles or
Yeah.
the nervous system or anything like that?
The first thing that comes to mind, ankles, is movement. It's the extension of the hips. And if you're down an ankle, you're probably not as active. So to like really, the first thought is like going in and having to reflect internally, so the feels.
Mm-hmm.
And then my other thought would be, if you're down an ankle, is where do you need to pivot? Because you're probably not you need to either switch or you need to be a little bit more innovative.
I love that.
Yeah. And that could be two things. Pivot, depending on which ankle, I would tell you you need to pivot physically. So like in the material world, or left side to me sometimes means a little bit more internal. So it would be thoughts, relationships,
Emotional.
yeah. How you're doing something that isn't working, and the only way for you to see it is it's going to show up in your body.
Dang, and that just relates so much to that Aquarian, right? And
Yeah.
like we have to choose something different,
Yeah.
right? We have to allow something to be innovative,
And
right?
when you're seeing in the ones that are the ones of us, that's not proper, but you get what I'm saying?
We're not proper.
We're not proper. That are in like these wintry spots where ice is present. I can't think of a better time. I'm not saying hurting the ankle is a good time, but you're thinking like winter, like this time to like reflect.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to be hardly be able to do anything. Anyways, you're going to be a little laid up. So like that, you see a little bit more of that now because you're probably ungrounded. You're on stable footing anyways, and this is the only way to show it. And right before we move into spring.
Yeah, and the only way to like, break through the limitations, right? Because winter feels a little limiting in some parts of the world, right? Not everywhere, but definitely where we live, you know. So I love that. I think I was thinking the nourishment of the blood and the oxygen. Horsetail is an excellent herb and can be for a great advantage for Aquarian, any kind of Aquarian energy or just using it the season. But we have an excellent tea blend that is all wild harvest. It's wild nettle, it's wild raspberry leaf, and wild horsetail. All super nourishing. That horsetail with the silica goes right into the bones, and lots of calcium, but really a stabilizer for that energy. And so just a suggestion if you're looking for something to supplement you energetically through the herbs, I would recommend it. I feel like in the winter, I just naturally want to drink those things. I'm not saying that I'm, an angel. I just feel like over the years of like, I can notice how I feel after I do those things. So, in a life full of maybe not taking care of myself, that feels really important to me now. And those are some of the ones that I will turn to on a daily basis. I feel like that also works through the energetic and subtle body. Also, I just want to point that out in Aquarian energy is like that could be really connected in with the sixth chakra, the third eye chakra, and with the nervous system and all of that. We also have to think about that we're an electric beings. We are electromagnetic, right? And the electricity coming from above, the magnetism coming from below, right? I think we'll probably drop a meditation for you in the next couple of weeks to work with that. Also some different practices, but like this is also working on these outer layers that we can't see, these auric fields, as because we have a biofield. And this energy, this like these shock waves and stuff affect, think of like when you're in a bad mood, you're like emanating, like oozing that stuff, and when you're feeling a lot of joy, you just like light up the room, right? They like think about those things. If you don't know a lot about the energy systems, you can kind of imagine situations like that, but that really kind of working through those layers too. So it's a great time. I think Jackie's probably gonna drop a little Reiki on you this month also. Those are great modalities. The body talk, again, it would be a great modality to use to work with the nervous system or some of these subtle layers in the body that aren't very vocal. And acupuncture, working with the meridian systems, working through some of these energetic layers, because just like Jackie talked about, belief systems or limitations that might not even be within this body, or holding on to into spaces that we don't realize that we have created the limitation, and so having someone that can read through those things and work through it. This is why herbs and stones and working with some of these tools can help you break through some of these layers. So if you're interested in those things, if you want to work with those things, check out our website. We've got lots of tools to help you navigate whatever it is that you desire to navigate. If you feel the calling, check it out. Websites down below. We will wrap this up. Drop us any questions or tell us your placements of Aquarian energy. I would certainly love to hear that. Until next time.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, or share.
My heart's a little wonky today.
I kind of like that it was like two different things.
That was